Good morning. About a month ago, I had to tell people in the office what the title of this sermon this morning was going to be. As you see from your order of service, the title is, Am I a Unitarian? Well, if being the butt of almost all UU bumper stickers and jokes like you heard this morning make me a Unitarian, then this is a no-brainer. I am so Unitarian. I'm in. In fact, I might be the quintessential Unitarian, full of doubt and loving it. Ambivalence, ambiguity, my meat and potatoes. I'm a seeker, and I'm a doubter. There's a reading in the back of our hymnals called Cherish Your Doubts. I have Cherish Your Doubts framed and on my wall by my desk at home, and I look at it every day. I'm cocky about doubting. But, as you may or may not have noticed, there's a different voice around here and all over UU land. There's a challenge, almost a provocation, coming from this very pulpit and from other Unitarian Universalist pulpits as well. The challenge is for us doubters, we seekers, to actually find something and to let go of doubt for a minute or maybe more, come to some terms with what we actually might believe about those mysteries, the meaning of life, what's it all about. Uh-oh. Maybe you remember that a couple of months ago, Christine herself issued just such a challenge in a sermon titled, A Time to Find. In that sermon, she said that Unitarian Universalism asks that we explore alternative answers and try to actively figure out what we believe about the secrets of life. And I've been online recently looking at other UU ministers to see what they had to say on the subject, and one of them really made me mad. He sort of got my doubting hackles up. He said, doubt is useful for a while, but you got to get on with it. He said that choosing doubt as a philosophy of life is a lot like choosing immobility as a means of transportation. Well, it's a clever line, isn't it? And it sort of speaks to exactly maybe what I've been doing. I have been choosing doubt as a philosophy of life. But another minister, one that I have a great deal of respect for, First Church, put it another way. He said that we, all of us, Unitarian Universalists, should rise to the occasion, rise to the promise of our own beliefs. And he said he thought that the religious impulse might stem from two sources, awe and humility. Well, awe is the touchstone of my emotional life, and frankly, I could use a little more humility. So I thought maybe, just maybe, this journey to figure out what I believed about the deep things, the deep nature of things, might be just the ticket. So I put myself to the task of overtly trying to find something I believed in, and perhaps even find an antithesis to doubt. Well, I have to tell you, I've had quite a few meltdowns while I've been doing this. They took various forms. One day I ate a quart of ice cream with a soup spoon directly from the carton. And then I got busy. I took a nap, a 3-hour nap. And then I took another 3-hour nap. Well, eventually, I began to do other things. I thought about those words that I hear from the pulpit. You know those words, those magic, mysterious words like prayer and, spiritual and the divine, God. We don't say God around here much, but the words the divine come almost every Sunday. And I'll tell you that to a suspicious ear, the words the divine sound perilously close to the word God. But I thought about it, thought a little more, and tried to figure out maybe what those ideas that had been rolling around in the back of my mind, I tried to bring them to the front of my mind. This is something I've been maybe trying a little bit to do from the very beginning. And the very beginning for me was 43 years ago when my husband Brian and I were married in this church. He and I and our combined 4 children and our 2 witnesses were married in the old sanctuary, and we were in and out of there in about a half an hour. One of the witnesses said to me, "Why did you choose the Unitarian Church for your wedding ceremony? You're not a Unitarian, are you?" "No," I said, and then I thought, I don't think so. A year later, my son died, and the man at the mortuary said, "Is there someone I could call to give the eulogy at the gravesite?" Still in a kind of a fog, I said, "Would you try the Unitarian Church?" "Oh," he said, "are you a Unitarian?" "No," I said, "not really." Many years later, my daughter was married by a Unitarian minister, but still we were not Unitarian. But by 2003, Brian and I, by then both retired, had usually spent Sunday mornings doing the crossword puzzle, and we thought one Sunday morning we might just get dressed up and come and see what the Unitarian Church was all about. It was that casual, and yet on that day I began to cry. I sat in this, not this, these seats, but the seats in the old chapel, and I said, "What's this all about? Why am I crying?" And there didn't seem to be any reason. There seemed to be a connection to, I don't know, maybe everything. By the time of Brian's memorial service 2 years ago, we'd been members of this church for 9 years. I'd been part of the membership committee, and I'd led a covenant group, and I'd served on the stewardship committee. Brian and I had socialized with SIP and sub groups and hosted UU zip code parties, and now I serve on the worship team. And that old question, am I a Unitarian? Surely that's been answered by now, wouldn't you think? And in many ways, it has been answered with a resounding yes, 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 of course, I'm a Unitarian. This has been a chance for me to be in community with other people who value doubt and honor seeking. And then, more emotionally, but frankly, slightly more unsettling, is that thing that made me cry. As I sit here listening on Sunday mornings, even now, I'll sometimes hear coming from this pulpit something that sounds like that elusive thing, truth. When that happens, it's like fireflies in my childhood. On muggy Missouri nights when I was 10 years old, I used to try to catch fireflies in a jar, but you know how fireflies are. Poof, they're gone. Just so, I sit here listening to the words from the pulpit, words which what I want them to do is to actually light up my consciousness in the same way, and they do. I listen and I hear and I go, yes, what? Wait, what? And then, poof, it's gone, with only a suggestion that there was something really important going on. So, sure, I belong here. I'm a Unitarian. I say yes, yes, yes. But, and here's the rub, I also say no, no, no. Or more frequently, I say, I don't understand. I don't know what those words mean. Those mysterious, magical words coming from the pulpit, those words that other people seem to understand. I'm one of the people who have trouble with the words, one of those people who read ahead in the hymnals. Some of you may know the words I struggle with. God, that's a big one. And as I said, we don't say God much around here, but we do say the divine, and that comes close to God. And then there are those other words that I've told you about that I don't understand. I don't have faith, really, in anything big, or at least I thought I didn't. But a month ago, full of my constant companion doubt and yet determined to take a fair shot at this challenge to decide or figure out or discover if I believe something, I went to work. I tried to go about it systematically. First, I listened online to UU sermons, and then I read and listened online to philosophers like Michael Dowd, for instance, for whom reality is God. I like that. And I read Joseph Campbell again to just see what myth has to say to us. For a while, I was awash in metaphors from some really, really smart people trying to make difficult scientific concepts accessible to people like me who don't speak math or physics. One idea led to another, and then I went to the hard stuff. Cold, hard science. Well, at least my pretty soft version of cold, hard science, I went to TED Talks. TED Talks on quantum mechanics and TED Talks on the uncertainty principle. I even signed up for an online course in special relativity. I have to tell you that after 4 weeks, I'm still on lesson 2. And I endlessly badgered my only scientist friend to make complicated things simple for me. I went for walks. I thought about the natural world, about my own life experience, and then I took another nap. Oh dear, it really has been a hard slog. In such a short time, I've learned a lot, and I've forgotten a lot, and I've been confused a lot. Mostly, the experience has been humbling, because it turns out my capacity to hold on to abstract ideas or to balance competing values is fairly limited. And also, I turned to those pesky words, those words from the pulpit that I thought, that I doubted would ever mean anything to me. Well, I don't know, does it ever happen to you that after you've worked all day or all week or like me all month on something, some question, that you go to bed with ideas and data and parts of a poem maybe sort of all messed up in your brain, and when you go to bed, you go to sleep, something happens. Some superb secretary comes in and sort of orders all the bits and pieces and makes it kind of make sense. And while you're sleeping, she puts it all together, and when you wake up, it turns out that you maybe know something you didn't know, or that you didn't know that you knew when you went to bed. There's been a kind of a paring down and a coalescence, a reordering, and voila, there's the birthing of a discovery. And if you hold on to it, if you let it percolate through the day, it just might amount to something. Well, for me, one morning, all those days of floundering paid off in a surprising insight. It turns out there were a couple of things that I believed, and I'd believed them for about as long as I could remember. 2 things that I absolutely believed. I believed these 2 things without definitive proof, and I believed them even though there's evidence to the contrary. 2 things I believed had been true since the beginning of time, if there was a beginning, and will be true at the end of time, if there's going to be an end, and are true throughout the universe, or universes, as the case may be. And the word that occurred to me, the word that might describe this kind of belief, is faith. So here's one thing I discovered, or perhaps remembered, that I believe, that I have faith in. I believe that the natural world is coherent. And by natural world, I mean absolutely everything you can think of except that stuff made by humans. And by coherent, I simply mean that things make sense all the way up and all the way down, every scale, and always, from microcosm to macrocosm, and for all eternity. I believe, I have faith that things are coherent. And here's a second thing I believe. A second thing I have faith in, I believe that all things are connected. Now, many of us here believe that, and we have good evidence. We know about our kinship through evolution to all living things, and we now know that we're made of star stuff. The same kinds of atoms, possibly even the very same atoms that were present at the formation of the planets, are here now in our hair and in our skin and on the mountains we see out our windows and on the snow that falls on them. Now, some of you may say to me, as one of my friends, upon hearing this great discovery, said, "Oh, Pat, for goodness sake, everybody believes those things. They're self-evident." It doesn't take belief, it doesn't take faith to believe in coherence and connection. But she's wrong. When you think about it, there's a fair amount of controversy about both of those things I have faith in. Either or both of them could be dead wrong. For instance, this notion about everything being connected, you know that there's evidence that the universe is expanding and expanding at an accelerated rate and maybe no end in sight. You know that the galaxies are moving farther and farther apart. Some cosmologists believe that if this scenario plays out, eventually it's possible that a vast, dead, almost nothingness will be the future of the universe with no connection at all. And if that weren't enough to make a doubting person like me sit up and take notice, even the idea that the universe is coherent may be on some pretty shaky ground. Certainly the rules of physics, which work quite well for the world we see around us, Newtonian or classical physics, don't work at all for the very small world, and vice versa. Quantum mechanics, which describes laws governing the behavior between atoms and within atoms, and which make perfect sense at that tiny scale, don't seem to apply, at least so far, to the world we know at all. So no, there is no certain proof that coherence and connection are ultimately true. My belief that they are comes from a combination of the best evidence available to me and my intuition and my hope. I made a couple of intuitive decisions a long time ago that have come to seem more true. The more I think about them, the more I learn about them, the more true they seem. About these two concepts, coherence and connection, I do not doubt. For now. I believe that they're true, and not just for a fleeting second, not just like lightning bugs in a jar, but day after day, these concepts continue to seem to feel deeply, deeply true. Of course, I'll stay alert and open to more evidence, but for now, I have faith. Faith that coherence and connection are ultimate truths. Now, you probably guessed from the very beginning that I was going to decide I was Unitarian. And of course, you're right. I ask the question about my beliefs in this way that I do because I've been kind of disturbed about those pesky words. I've been uneasy. But now, I'm not quite so uneasy. I still don't know what many of them mean to people who use them, but I know what one of them means to me. I'm comfortable using the word faith, comfortable applying it to myself, and comfortable owning my belief, owning my faith. This journey to get here, to this point, has been arduous, but frankly, kind of fun. The result has been to deepen not only my humility, which it certainly has, but to deepen my awe as well. And this business of deciding what you believe is something I'm sure many of you have done long since. And the quest may not interest others. However, if you seek answers and have so far been content to doubt what others suggest, but if maybe you'd like to nudge your doubt aside for a bit, I commend the effort to you. Not the way I've done it, like cramming for a college exam, but when these big questions, the what's it all about questions, come to your mind, you might sort of let them hang out a little longer than is strictly comfortable. When you hear words that seem a little alien to you, you might taste them and roll them around on your tongue and in your mind and see if they gather definition. Finally, I may have another go at this myself one of these days, but I'll tell you, I'm going to save struggling with those other pesky words, prayer and spiritual and especially the divine, until I've had a long, long chance to rest up, to take maybe another nap. The closing hymn is number 128, For All That Is Our Life. Please stand as you're able and join us in song.